Hello and welcome to episode 73 of the Cutie Art Crusaders for November 26th, 2013. My name is Rainbow Plasma. I'm the organizer and this week's editor, and today I'm joined by...
Burn to One, the special guest coordinator.
I'm Flutterguy317 and I'm the media manager.
And I am Atmospark with a P. I do the questions and the DeviantArt page. Also just updated the YouTube page. So
Yay. So, first things first, I hear it's someone's birthday this
Is it mine?
upcoming week.
Well, see, the thing is,
Oh.
this is weird because I have no idea if I'm recording next week. I've just realized because, so my birthday, for those of you who don't know or weren't around last time that happened, my birthday is on November 30th, which is a Saturday. So it'll be after the next time we record, but before the next episode. So basically, this will be the last episode before my birthday that you guys will see. And so it's kind of a weird timing issue, and like I'm having like my dad come up for my birthday and visit me, so he'll be staying here for a couple days and I'll be out of action, and I know I'll miss the spoiler cast, but I don't know if I'll be able to come next week for the episode and all that weird stuff. So it's really weird timing, but yeah,
But it's your birthday.
I'm turning
Yay.
20 on the 30th, so
Yeah.
yay.
Yay! No longer a teenager.
Yeah, no wonder teenagers. All of you are old, by the way. I just wanted to point that out.
I know.
I'm by far the youngest one.
Yeah.
All right. And
You're going to be
speaking-
old soon.
Speaking of being young and yet organized, I just mentioned the spoiler cast that we are going to be having, and that starts this week, like this episode that you're watching right now. So we will be adding on a little thing at the end, talking about the latest episode of My Little Pony Season 4, which is coming out by the time that you see this, which will be
Oh my gosh, it's coming out
awesome.
tomorrow!
So if you want to see a little bit of what we thought about the episode, it won't be too long. I'm going to try to keep it under 20 minutes. I don't know, maybe not this week because it's probably a two-parter, right?
It is a
better be.
two-parter.
Yeah.
It is.
So
Is
it
it?
might be
Oh.
over 20 minutes, but I'm going to try to just in general, I'm going to try to keep the spoiler cast under 20 minutes so you guys can still kind of watch these episodes in bite-sized stuff. And if you are haven't watched the episode or aren't interested in the spoiler cast, then we still have our like regular outro, so you can just close the window after that. So yeah, so the spoiler casts are back. We talked about that a little bit last week, but this starts this week, so you know, make sure to tune in after the episode.
Get hyped!
And
Yay!
get hyped. Yeah, for
Get
sure.
hyped.
For those who don't know, we record our podcasts on Fridays.
Yep.
So when we're actually recording this, we have no idea what goes on in the episode, so you won't be spoiled by anything we talk about.
And we
until
all
the
avoid
spoiler cast.
spoilers too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we record after the episode comes out. We record a spoiler cast, and then we mash it all together. Editing fun.
Yay!
Fun for you.
Yeah, for me.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah. So, I had something that I wanted to talk about or bring up.
You're doing like charity work, aren't you?
Kinda.
Participating
Quote
at
unquote
least.
charity. My computer's doing charity work. There's a thing on Reddit, because we all kind of browse the Reddits, on the My Little Pony subreddit, which is kind of a collaboration charity contest thing between the My Little Pony fandom, the Adventure Time fandom, Harry Potter fandom, and Last Airbender fandom. And it's like a whole big bunch of things that you can do for charity. And I guess, I don't know if there's like actual prizes, but you know, you get mad props if you're the winning team, I guess.
It's not really prizes. It's more of like a you win over the other fandoms kind of thing.
Yeah, you get like bragging rights basically.
Because like last
And
time we kicked the butt out of Last
it's-
Airbender.
Yeah.
Suck it,
Yeah,
nerd.
the winning subreddit gets featured on Reddit.
Oh yeah, that's right. The title bar, I think, for like a month or something like that of Reddit.
Oh no, it's like a day. It's a day.
Oh.
I'm fairly certain it's a day.
Okay.
Nope. It's actually a year and a half.
For the rest of
So
all
we're still
time,
up
there will be
there.
ponies in the no.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like there's 5 different parts of it, and what's really interesting is that it's not like just limited to Reddit. And the second part is actually a creation part, which I'm assuming has to do with fan art and stuff like that. I actually don't know because they haven't put up the specifics or anything like that. But if you want to do some charity stuff and if you want to like help the bronies win against all of the other fandoms, because there are other fandoms and they, not ponies, and you want to like kind of get creative, keep an eye out for that, because that's should be coming up soon.
If you would like to go and do that, then head over to the URL bit.ly/cccccpony. I literally am making it as we speak.
Yeah.
So, hey, Flutter Guy, could you pass me the link to that Reddit post so I can make this link so people don't steal it and make it say something really awful?
Here, I will give it to you. There you go.
Thank you.
And like we said, it's an awesome thing for charity, and like the community gets like awesome bragging rights. They will literally install like desktop ponies onto the front page of Reddit. That'll happen, I swear.
Well, I mean,
kind of.
There's a lot of false information being passed around right now.
Reddit will actually become ponies, like every
They're
single
gonna
word.
replace the main page with /My Little Pony.
It'll be up hoofs and down hoofs.
Yeah.
See, only the truest facts here on the Cutie Art Crusaders. That's where you get your pertinent information.
So I know, like, I am currently doing the first part of the whole challenge, which is distributed computing for calculating protein strings, I guess, which is kind of cool because it's like helping science, I guess, supporting science, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
So what is that, Flutter Guy?
So basically, I don't know if anyone's heard of like the SETI at Home project, which was like a big distributed computing thing a long time ago, or that started a long time ago and is still going on, where like you download something and it like grabs data from like satellite dishes and it kind of parses through it and then sends the results back to like try and find extraterrestrial life or whatever. But there's a lot of these like distributed computing projects, and the one that they're doing for this challenge kind of is centered around mapping protein strings. So like for developing new cures for diseases and stuff like that, trying to find like that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Technology.
Yay.
Yeah,
So you can
I
also that is up currently. So if you have some spare computing cycles or whatever, you can do that.
Go to bit.ly/cccccpony.
It's on the screen.
Go to that link. Click it. It's in the description.
It's on the
Ask in
screen.
the chat. Do it.
Probably not in the description.
Philly?
It's going to be on the screen, not in the description.
It'll still be in the description to make it happen.
No. It's on the
Look
screen.
at you, man.
All right.
Anyway.
Well, there's a bunch of other stuff that you can go check out at that link, and it'll give you all the information there. We're not here to say it word for word, so go check it out if you're interested in doing a couple things for charity. There's a bunch of stuff. It's not just computing. They've got 4 categories: computing, creation, creatures, and charity. That's what the 4 C's stand for. So go check that out.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. Quick note before we move into art. On the podcast for quite a while, especially yesterday when we were talking about autumn.
Last week.
Flora asked me last week. Sorry, we were talking about autumn. Flora asked me a question asking if some brushstrokes were expressionist, and I kind of like explained why they weren't awkwardly. But I've been using that term a lot, like if something is expressionist or impressionist, which is actually incorrect, because when you say something like that, it's actually referring to the point in time or that specific art movement. The correct term that I should be using, and I try to use on the show that a little bit, is called expressionistic and impressionistic, which means that it's saying that if we use that term about an art piece we're looking at, it's saying there's qualities in that art piece that mimic that specific movement or art pieces from that movement, like the impressionist movement or something, like super loose brushwork or whatever we're talking about. There's qualities that are similar or super vivid colors. But we're not actually saying that that is an expressionist piece from the work with German. No,
Right.
I mean,
not
like,
quite what we're saying.
Monet probably could have been a brony, and
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what we're saying, is that these Brony pieces are mimicking Monet works.
But like,
no,
so
not even close.
okay, are you gonna make a joke too, or can I try and
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so when we're talking about realist pieces, that's an actual movement. That's the actual, that's the movement itself, and then realistic is more of a descriptive word. So like expressionist is a movement, expressionistic is a descriptive. right?
Yep, correct.
Okay, cool.
Yay.
That was it.
Cool.
Art,
Okay,
knowledge is
so
power.
Art.
art. Our theme this week is Philomena, who, if you don't remember, was Princess Celestia's Phoenix from
bird.
MLP.
For like 2
So-
episodes that it was.
Yeah.
Don't worry, she'll be back in season 4, I'm sure of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yep.
No idea.
But also, phoenixes are quite big in mythology, so people
Phoenixes are
know
cool.
what phoenixes are.
Yeah, that's true. Phoenixes are cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
They're
are.
pretty awesome. So our first piece is called Phoenix Gift by Karzani, who we featured last week in our autumn
Yeah.
episode.
Now, you're going to move on to this art piece, and I'm glad you did, because it means we have something on the screen. But I also just wanted to talk about Philomena in the show herself, because Philomena is a really interesting character when it comes to like the design of the character within the show. Because Philomena is just, it almost feels like a different style. It's weird. It's like it's the same. It's obviously the same style as the ponies themselves, but it got such, it doesn't have the outlines. It's very, very bright colors, in terms of saturation, which is something that the show tries to avoid as much as possible. It's just a really, really interesting technique used by the show, and so I thought I would just mention that because it's different even in the show itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was done that way for that kind of value, like that kind of wow value, because Fluttershy saw it as, this awesome, amazing creature. So they kind of changed the art style and the colors to kind of mimic that feeling, They get that really super cool sense.
Yeah.
They do that with quite a few of their what we call mythological creatures. So same with the Ursa Major Minor. They were completely different to everything else because they were completely see-through but had highlighted eyes and faces.
Right.
With the wasn't a chimera. The
Manticore?
The Manticore, that's the one. They did it with that too. When
Lion,
you first,
scorpion, good.
yeah, that was also really highlighted when you first see it. And
Yeah.
they do it a lot when they bring in a mythological creature like Fluffy, the Cerberus. Fluffy
Oh,
from
yeah,
Harry
yeah,
Potter, by the way.
Yeah. Let's just not talk about Timberwolves for okay.
Here's to hoping that there's more mythological creatures in season 4.
Yay! Honestly,
But
that's
and also the Hydra too.
yeah. That's one of the things I love about MLP. Is that like all the references to the mythological creatures are actually
they really like
real.
mythological creatures.
Yeah.
Thank you and praise our Lord and Savior, Lauren Faust.
Yay!
Amen.
Nicholas Cage.
Thank you, Based Faust.
Yeah. So
But it's not just like one. And just one other thing on the mythological creatures. It's not just one. Like it's not just Greek mythological
right,
creatures,
right.
which is good. It encompasses all of them.
yeah, which is really cool.
Encompassment.
So you don't know which world it's set in. Ooh. Okay, go ahead.
Bern, do you love
Ah,
this?
Philomena.
Bern, you love this piece, don't you?
Yeah.
This is
I like it.
amazing. Yeah.
You want to like
We're
talk
just gonna
about it
stare
now?
at this.
We're giving you free reign, and then the rest of the episode will go on.
Yeah.
Just go wild on this piece, and then we'll do the rest of them.
It's all like glowy and stuff. So I like the lighting. It's done really interesting. It like highlights kind of like expressive parts and makes you look in certain areas. So like at Fluttershy, and then Philomena's really bright. And Philomena's also done in that kind of different style than Fluttershy's, kind of like super flamey whatnot. And like I like the colors, how everything's blended. It's all done really well. Karzani always has kind of unique style. Sometimes he does really plain colors and cartoony stuff, and then in his other more digital painted things, he goes really crazy with it, which is really cool. And then Karzani's super unique and cute style is there too in Fluttershy. And it's always there in all of his works. And I like how he plays with like the strokes and all that on Fluttershy as well. It's always everything's always done really well.
Yeah.
I like what he's done with this one, where it looks like the light should be coming from Philomena herself because she's a phoenix, she has fire. But if you look on Philomena, she has shading. So it's different like that. Like the light is sort of centered right in the middle of the piece at Fluttershy and at Philomena, on both of them. Or coming from maybe top right, I want to say. Oh, sorry, bottom. No. As it looks like it's coming from that feather that she's holding.
Yeah, I can see that
Somewhere in that general area.
tail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also from the top because Fluttershy's head.
I would say the
Definitely.
tail probably does a lot of that.
Yeah.
It's definitely that selective lighting, So like maybe he wants to show that the tips of the wings and the end of the tail are giving that glow. So which is why kind of like glow hits certain areas, and then the The yellows there in Philomena are very bright, where the kind of the reds and stuff get a little darker and more shaded. But despite choice, or stuff like that. It's just I like the composition of it, where you have like juxtaposed. You have Fluttershy and Fluttershy and Philomena. I can't go too long without saying Fluttershy accidentally when I'm talking about Fluttershy. It's only a matter of time.
I know. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was gonna say, my eye kind of gets drawn right to like Philomena's tail, and also to the feather that Fluttershy is holding, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, in this kind of piece, because you get all these sparks kind of flying off of I guess there would be sparks of like flame flying off of Philomena's wingtips and her tail and stuff like that, which would probably end up being the brightest.
Yeah.
So.
Those bright isolated sparks and then the really bright yellows really attract your attention down there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, especially against that black background.
Yeah.
Contrast.
There's something really weird about this piece in that it reminds me, it's like it reminds me of a different artist's style, and I can't put my finger quite on who that artist is. But there's someone that I saw who's got a very, very similar style. And for all I know, it might just be Karzani. Like, I might just be looking at it and be like, wow, this looks a lot like Karzani. And meanwhile, it is. But
I could definitely see that, because he has that cartoon style that he does his pieces in, and then the complete opposite, like painted, like digital painting style.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I think it might be Celebi Yoshi, maybe? I guess maybe
a little
it
bit,
comes,
because there's no outlines and stuff like in Fluttershy's face.
Yeah. I mean, the hair has a little bit, so that would be different, but it's definitely got that.
You remember the Fluttershy piece that we talked about on the Celebi Yoshi episode when we were interviewing her? Remember how Fluttershy had outlines and then didn't have outlines? It's the same kind of thing in this piece, where Fluttershy doesn't have outlines, and then there's outlines on like the outside of her, because maybe Karzani was lazy and doesn't like drawing outlines. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, it's a fair thing to say, so it's not it's not a bad thing. It's just it's an interesting style choice. I also wanted to point out that the difference between illuminated spots and shaded spots is really interestingly done here, because the artist has decided not to just do a simple gradient. A lot of people are like, well, point A is illuminated, point B is shaded, so to get from point A to point B, we just put a gradient or we blur or whatever, just straight thing. But Karzani looks at it and goes, nope, not going to do that. And so if you look specifically at Fluttershy's chest, like you start at a part that's like lit up, and then you move down and it gets like brighter or more saturated, and then it fades out into a shadow, which is a really interesting way to do it. And you see a lot in like the hair as well, and somewhere on the face, and on the ear especially too. Like the center of the ear is the illuminated part, but then as you go out, it gets saturated, and then it goes into the shadow really quickly.
You'll also notice that something going all the way back to like our color episode with Spirit, where she talked about how warm light casts cool shadows. It's the same kind of concept in this. I mean, it's kind of almost subtle and maybe would be overlooked, but the colors in the shadows on Fluttershy are cool colors. They're like, it's really noticeable in her ear, where the tip of it is like that blue violet, and also in the bottom tips of her hair on her back, and then again it's visible in her tail in the very bottom left corner of the piece.
Right.
It's that blue violet again.
Right.
So it is causing that kind of complementary opposite color on the other side of her from the warm colors.
You know what I would kind of like to see? I'd like to see that a little bit more explored in this kind of piece, because we've got this like really good, like simple, like beyond simple black background, of course. And I would almost like to see the use of color to give contrast a little bit more, just to see what it would look like. So like make the background just like a deep, like dark, maybe blue. And then, you see, like you were saying, the place where you see the most blue shadows is on her head near her ear. And I'd like to see like a little bit more blue put into the other shadows, because when you look down at like her back, there's not a lot of blue in that. It's very gray or black. So I think it'd be really interesting to kind of explore a cool environment with the warmness of Philomena.
Well, I'd say you have to be careful with that, because there is something that's used a lot where it's just that warm to cool composition. It's like red and blue, and it's a very common go-to.
Yeah,
so in this
it would have to
piece-
be subtle for sure.
Yeah. The background in this case is very subtle, and it doesn't stand out that like strong contrast of cool in this piece. And I'd say I'd argue that it's kind of like a violet more than it is a black. I feel like there's still some color and substance there. But as you were saying, like exploring the concept of having a really strong, like opposing warmth to it and like going in like blues and stuff. It's actually really funny because I had a teacher who hated like warm to cool composition. He thought it was like, artists always do that. And it's always like the go-to, where it's like, oh, and one side will be red and yellows and the other side will be violets and blues. So it's like there is definitely that area where you can have a super strong contrast. But in this one, it's like the piece feels much warmer. Without it, with having that super dull, like blackish purple in the background there, and then like the warm reds you can see kind of gradiented over like Philomena's tail. You can kind of see how he kind of just brushed in some orange on top of the purple there to give it kind of that warmer glow. So like you feel the warmness in this piece more than you feel the cool colors because there's that lack of really cool opposite juxtaposed colors.
Interesting.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah. It's really cool because when you actually start to notice like the cool shadows and stuff like that, it kind of gives the piece a little bit more depth to it just because you're kind of picking it up, I think. At least from my perception of the piece. But
you definitely see what the artist like what Karzani had in mind and like the subtle things that he like knows to put there and she like kind of shows his experience. Art betrays mentality is my art history teacher always likes to say.
Nice. All right.
Anyway,
so next piece is called
totally using that term wrong, but ignore it.
next piece is called Skies of Fires by Assassin Monkey, who is usually in the chat. So hi.
Hi. Yeah, people know.
Hi.
People know by now.
Yeah. So I really like this piece.
Assassin Monkey, you're famous.
Yeah.
Or also really likes your piece.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot going on with this piece. There's a lot of like.
Do tell, Flutter Guy.
Oh, well, it's just action wise.
Oh yeah, why is that?
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of phoenixes.
Well, what are the phoenixes doing? That's all actiony.
They're flying.
What about how they're flying makes it actiony?
There's a lot of like fire streaming from them, and it's showing motion. There's also a lot of smoke that you can see from like some of the phoenixes in the background.
Yeah.
It's really cool the way that Assassin Monkey has portrayed flight in this piece. How so? Well, just because of the motion of the flames and the smoke and the oh my god.
Yeah, but sometimes just saying like, no, I like it, but let me help you. Sometimes saying where you're just like, oh yeah, the flames and the smoke, like that's good and that's correct. But like, what about them? Is it because they're at like ladder angles? Is it because things are horizontal? Is it because they're at strong diagonals? Hint, hint.
It would be the diagonals, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
That's good.
Bird, do you want to explain why diagonals cause motion?
Yeah. Diagonals give a sense of motion because when something is like flat or up and down, it's very like stern and like known that that is a specific direction it's going. So how do I describe that? Something that is like straightly vertical will be very like grounded and steady, and it gives a sense of power. And then something that's vertical or flat gives a sense of like motionless or flat or whatever. But when you have, or if it's coming into like the foreground or whatever, so diagonals give a sense of motion and they also give a sense of action. So the example is, let's say you are a person, like a stick figure or whatever, and you're standing, so you're vertical. It's not very like motionful. There's not a lot there. But let's say you sprint, you just start running. You're gonna be at a diagonal angle because you're gonna be moving forward. So that's the examples. If you draw a stick person diagonally, he has motion to him and he's running and there's power there. But if you draw a stick person vertical or horizontal, he's standing, being boring, or sleeping. So that's kind of how you can think about it. Is like things that are vertical give this more sense of motion and action. So having those birds and phoenixes all coming from the sky in vertical angles, and then having the entire composition of the piece be at a vertical. So if you look at like the mountains and the horizon line, it's physically at a vertical, and having the bird on the left a little bit higher than the bird on the right, it gives that sense of action or dramatic effect or what have you. and it gives that sense of serious like feeling of power.
So, motionful.
Strategy.
Motionistic.
You can tell that Assassin Monkey used intense strategery when making this piece.
Strategy.
Motion.
Strategy.
I want to say that the stick figure analogy that you made is actually really brilliant, because I know like everyone has basically drawn a stick figure, and usually if you want to show that your stick figure is moving really fast, you would put it at an angle, and it's something that everyone can do and everyone can try. And so if you have a piece of paper, try drawing a stick figure standing up and try drawing one at an angle.
It's just something easy to visualize, because it's better if like you're in like if I was talking, what I was trying to do is like I'm physically like angling my body and like but like presuming that running pose, you know, it's better if you have someone
leaning towards
and, like,
the screen.
If I would be saying that in front of you, I would be standing and I would be like boring, like hands at my sides, and then like I would presume a running like sprinting position and be at an angle. That's kind of that concept.
He would be about 2 inches from your face, just like talking
Bam!
your ear off.
Right at you.
I also wanted to talk about the fact that you were talking about diagonal lines, but I also want to talk about just the skew of lines in this piece, because when you look at the horizon, it is not a flat horizon, nor is it even is it concave? No, it's not concave. It's convex. It's not even convex. Yeah. Right now, we're looking at it, and when we look at the horizon, it's concave, so it's curving up, which doesn't make any sense because the world never does that on a horizon. But it's almost like we're looking at this piece through some sort of like lens.
Fisheye lens,
I
yeah.
have a
Fisheye
question.
lens.
Is that even the horizon? Because to me, it doesn't look like it's the horizon. It looks like it's before the mountains, and that the horizon is being engulfed by this bright sun.
Well, no, but it's still like it's still got a line of where the sky meets the ground. That's a horizon.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's still a horizon, even if you can't really see it, but you can see where the water changes with the sky. Like
It's as if the earth and world itself is bending to the dramatic effect that the phoenixes are causing.
it also helps to not only help create a focus, because it creates almost like a circle, and so you would obviously look in towards the center of the circle, which is where whatever the heck, I guess it's a dragon, right? Yeah. So that, you know, you'd focus on that center dragon, and everything else, you know, everything else kind of supports that. You've got a lot of composition, like the two phoenixes closest to the camera, I guess, or the screen, where it's kind of like framing around that big circle. It's like a big oval, and it kind of, the horizon kind of keeps with that and keeps your eye inwards. And it also helps with motion, because you were talking about how diagonals are not a usual angle, you know, vertical and horizontal is the usual angle, and diagonal is not so usual, and so therefore it conveys motion. In the same way, this kind of unusual horizon creates this sense of motion, almost like it's flowing so fast that it's going against the laws of physics.
Yep. It creates motion, and it creates drama or action or whatnot, you know?
Something that Assassin Monkey always does, and which I love, which we all love, is he always uploads work in progress shots of big stuff like this. And if you have a look at the work in progress, you can see from this one that what he's done is like from our perspective, like the camera, it's tilted to the right, so that it's not exactly a convex or a concave, whichever way you're looking at it, horizon. It's actually going from top left to bottom right. So the whole camera's skewed off to the right that way.
Huh.
Which you can tell much easier from the work in progress shots.
It's still curving a bit.
Well, yeah, the curving intensifies as it gets more and more closer to the final piece. You can kind of see. Like it goes from a pure diagonal, all the way down to the curvature. It's really cool to see these kind of steps that are taken in a piece.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey.
Oh, one more thing before I go, because I know Assassin Monkey watches the show, so I want to give him props for making this 16:9. Because if there's one impact I can have, I want it to be that people start making like horizontal composition things 16:9.
Rainbow plasma, seal of improvement.
I'm not gonna say that it was because of me, but if it was, then thank you very much for doing that, Assassin Monkey, because I appreciate the fact that this is 16. See, because someone might want that as a wallpaper. So 16 by
it's
9.
an amazing piece and it's like really bright and wallpaper
16 by 9
material.
master race.
Bam. It would probably hurt your eyes if you saw it every single time. It's got quite a bit of light to it. Anyway, sorry, I wanted to
almost
say
like
that
the
before I moved
sun hurting my
on.
eyes.
For God's
Oh
sakes.
my gosh. Have you seen everyone out there? I want everyone to know.
Yes.
Wait.
What? Speak.
I just wanted to move on to the next piece so people could look at something else.
We're looking at
before
this
you
one
start
because I
talking
have
about
something
the
else to
animation.
say about this one, and it's also bright and sunny. So I want everyone to know that there is an animated, like, YouTube thing with Flutter Guy singing about how the sun hurts his eyes.
Yeah, thank you to Mummified.
It was made by your favorite giant spike costume wearing guy.
Yeah, it
Mummified
was.
Mustangs.
It was great.
Yeah.
Made me laugh.
Thank you, Mummified. You are amazing. Seriously.
Anyway.
Go check it out.
That's the first time we've ever gotten a fan
I
animation.
know.
Mhm.
Hint,
It
hint.
was amazing.
Anyway, no, I was gonna say
I'm shameless.
the brushwork in this is super cool. It's a little like more careless than Assassin Monkey usually does in pieces, because normally he gets super down in there and like super fine brushwork and little tiny, obscenely small details. But in this one, it's like much more carefree, much more looser, much more like a little powerful, heavy-handed. It's cool. It's interesting. It's different.
I like it because it kind of helps to convey the motion.
The
a little bit.
power.
Yeah, because you get motion blurring effects
Yeah,
and
you do.
stuff, and so everything's a little looser and whatnot.
Things are a little bit more muddled. Is it like motion blurs? Yeah, you can see that. Okay,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
Seriously, let's move on.
Next.
We're so far
One more
behind.
thing. One more thing.
No,
I really like this.
move
I
on.
All
really-
right, go.
Yeah. I really like the sparks from the phoenixes
Yeah,
in
they're
the
cool.
front.
Cool. Sparks
in
are
the
cool.
foreground. Yeah. Okay. Next piece. Moving on. Our next piece is called Philomena by Senate V. I like this piece. It's very what's the term?
Loose.
Analogous
Also loose.
Correct.
and loose.
On both accounts. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely analogous in that, you know, you've got all these warm colors, yellow, orange, and red. And it's also loose in the fact that we can most definitely see the brushstrokes in the wings. Obviously, as you get towards the head and the body of Philomena, it becomes a little bit less obvious, but the wings themselves and the fire that's coming off of the wings is very obviously like just a handful of brushstrokes. And it's very, very loose in that regard, which I think is a really interesting style.
Yeah. It lends itself to flames very well.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's almost like her body gets lost in the flames.
Yeah, and that's what I like when you're making, when people make stuff like this of Philomena, which is a bird on fire. It's usually well, in my opinion, it's a good thing when people do that, where you can't tell or you can roughly tell, but you can't really tell. There's no distinct outline between which part of the animal. Like here, you can see where the wings are, but it all looks like it's the same thing. And especially the tail, where it blends into the fire, and same with the wings. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like the most detailed part in this piece is Philomena's head. But it's not even like the focus point of the piece. Like, I would say all of Philomena's the focal point of the piece. But it's, you know, it's a really cool style choice. And it goes well with the whole Phoenix theme.
It's partly that it takes up like the entire verticalness of my monitor, but it has the like the focus is kind of lower, but I find myself looking from it top down, so the bright yellows towards the bottom half of the piece kind of carry my focus downward. So it's something that I'm kind of like looking at mainly from like top to bottom, you know. It's like everything's kind of being pointed towards her pointy beak and like the bottom tail feathers and bright yellows in the bottom, personally.
Mm-hmm.
But the brushwork that you were mentioning of how it's like all flamey, the artist's actually using something what I would call expressive brushwork. It's giving you that sense of flame, and that like the physical, super loose handed, free brush strokes on his digital tablet that the artist is making is extremely expressive. So we call that expressive brushwork. A term I haven't really thrown around yet.
It's really loose, and it's kind of nice. It's just, it looks like it was done quickly, but I'm sure that there was a lot of time and care put into each brushstroke.
It's one of those things where it's like it's a mix in between callousness and, you know, having that free hand, but it is a very calculated, expressive like movement, you know, that is probably done quick, to give that kind of greater emotion to it, you know. It actually looks like, since like you look at the ends of the brushes are kind of like, how do you want to put that? They're brushy. They're kind of like round or whatever, and you can kind of see the end of the digital brush. But the tips of it, like Philomena's beak or where that starts, is more round and more calculated to give kind of the sense of like a wing or like her beak and stuff. So it is kind of like erased or shaped. But there is, especially in the feathers in the top part, there is that sense of very loose, like transparencies and then non-transparencies and colors and whatnot. So he's both playing with colors that are like thick and not transparent and in the feathers and like wing areas, and then colors that are transparent behind them, giving that flame sense.
Yeah.
Well, that just goes into what I was saying before about blending, making everything look like it's all one thing.
Blend a bloop.
So, like, what?
What is going on?
Thank you, Bone. You've successfully thrown off my train of thought.
Well,
He's like, you said it was like all blending together, and I was just like, blend a bloop up. All blended.
Yeah, that.
this trail has officially.
Yes.
This trail. Okay. Okay.
I have died of dysentery.
This is an obvious sign that we should probably move on, because none of us can possibly speak at this moment. I think Senate V is a very good artist, and we will definitely be featuring him or her.
But our guy has more stuff to say.
I have one more
Can
thing.
I not say my thing?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
But you're turning
I
your
thought
thing
you were
into a
gonna move on.
transition,
Go
which is
on.
rude, because then you're like, no one else can say stuff.
I never actually transition unless we're like super out of time. I always leave it to him, so he always gets the final word. And don't worry.
Oh, thanks. Go on.
So Senate V is definitely an awesome new artist to me, at least. I hadn't really heard about his work before this piece.
To you, I heard about this artist before. It was cool.
And we'll definitely be having some more of his stuff on, because I really enjoy his style. And this one in particular is really spectacular. But I always love featuring new artists, and welcome new artist. Yay!
So I wanted to say quickly before we move on to our last piece is I like the composition, or I guess the layout of this piece, because it's very circular or ovular. So it does kind of bring your attention into Philomena, and it's the way that her whole body and tail is kind of smushed together, kind of makes it really a complete circle. And there's not really anything that's sticking out, or there's not really any gaps, which is kind of cool. Yeah. So our last piece is called The Eternal Flame by Isuka. I love the colors in this piece.
I like how you start every piece with, I really like this piece. This is a really awesome piece.
Yeah, you know.
I really love this in the piece.
Well, he's gotten better, though, because he started mentioning the things that he loves in the piece, as opposed to just that he loves the piece. Because obviously we pick pieces we like.
It's tough because I love the piece, and then I'm like, but I gotta find something to say, or else they're gonna get like.
Flutter Guy's a very loving man.
Sniffy. Good. Well, no, you're right, though, because the colors are definitely different from what we've seen before. Yes, they're all warm and similar to what we've seen before, but they're not quite the same, because this one's obviously got a much bigger focus on the color red. The reds in the piece, not only is there a red aura coming off of Philomena and red ashes, which I will get into in a minute, 'cause I love 'em. But also the reds themselves, the there's barely any yellow. It's mostly orange, which is like a reddy yellow. You know, that's how it works. And the oranges themselves are quite red, and then the reds are like very out there and very harsh is the wrong word, but they're very strong reds.
Vibrant.
Yeah,
This one,
very vibrant.
This one feels like it's more hotter than the rest of them, to me at least.
Well, that would come directly from the fact that it's redder.
Exactly.
I believe the term is hotisher.
It's more saturated.
Even though yellow is more of a hot color.
I would heavily argue that point.
It depends on the surrounding colors.
Yellow's actually closer to a neutral color. We usually just associate it with warm.
And I think warm is a very good word to use there, because I feel like yellow usually works with warm, but then you get to red and it's like, ooh, that's hot, you know? I feel like red is a hotter color.
Mm-hmm. As soon as you start mixing in a little bit of blue and moving towards green, it starts to cool down.
What I find really interesting about the colors in this piece is that there are like some purples and some pinks in there. And purple is one of those colors that you could use really in any situation to be cool or warm. And in this piece, it almost kind of intensifies the warmness of the colors surrounding it, which is really cool.
Also, what we've mentioned before is certain colors' temperatures will, they'll seem that specific temperature specifically due to colors around them. So like yellow, if you put the greens and blues around it, yellow will seem like a cool color. But if you put reds and whatnot next to it, yellow will seem like a hotter color. Hotterish.
Okay, something that okay, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, after you.
Okay, I will go.
God's sakes!
So, to kind of go off of the whole assassin monkey piece, we see some diagonalness in this piece, which kind of also portrays the movement of Philomena, a little bit, kind of because she's in flight, and you get her tail and her wings are kind of, there's flames coming off of them, and the diagonal part of the piece causes there to look like there's movement.
Wait, you said flames? I swear, Atmos Spark, I'll get to you, but I have to bring it up because we're going to run out of time and then I'm not going to be able to get to my point. But I really wanted to mention the ashes because I love texture in pieces. I think I've recently come to terms with the fact that I really, really love when there's almost like an artificial texture, obviously used well. But, we've talked about the fact that, one of the biggest artists out there, Trill, has these kind of textured backgrounds to split up the colored. And, we mentioned last week with the leaves that we had were really, really textured as well. And I think recently I've really come to love that kind of look. And the ashes, I guess those are ashes, right? Or maybe tiny feather particles or whatever they're supposed to be. They give the piece a lot of texture and a lot of like grit, and I love it.
Okay, what I wanted to bring up was, if you have a look at all four of the ones that we've shown today, every single one of them portrays fire in a different way. So if you look at the first one, it's very hard-edged, flaky. If you look at the one by Assassin Monkey, it's very, very blended. There's not too much focus on the individual bits of fire. If you look at the last one, which was Philomena by Senate V, it's each individual layer of the fire has a different color. And then you look at this one where it's all blended together, but it combines all of those elements. So there are bits there with the really hard edges, like the embers. And then you got the blending of the color, which you can obviously see. Then you got the ones that are in the Senate V one, where you've got the transparencies flying off the back of it, as well as the blended colors, and each individual layer has its own sort of color. That's what I wanted to say. Fire is really, really, really hard to draw. Mm-hmm. So good luck to everybody. Mm-hmm.
For sure.
And good work.
Just going off of what you said really quickly, is it's really interesting that you can draw fire in so many different contexts and with so many different styles, and it's instantly recognizable as fire or as flame.
Fire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody sees fire
We
differently.
associate it with hot.
Yeah. Hot.
Also, there's diagonals.
Okay.
Question times.
Burn.
Okay, so I'm gonna do questions because time constraints.
Whoa.
Okay, so first
wait. We are now back on time, so let's all just have a great, fantastic question session here. Doesn't need to be horrifically fast.
I felt rushed.
I'm saying this whole question.
We're good.
I really have to pee.
Okay.
Good, because do it.
Read the
breaking.
questions while we're still ahead.
Okay. First question I've got here is, As artists and people, do you prefer to write a fic or hear a song and do art to it, or do the art and have someone write a fic or make a song about your art? In short terms, would you rather be inspired or would you rather be an inspiration? Sent in by Scribble Worth Words.
Yeah, that was basically the short. That was basically like the shortened version of that. It was a good question, but yeah, basically, would you rather be inspired by something, or would you rather be an inspiration for someone?
Vern, do you go? Because you brought something up to us before we started recording, and
there's a comic I really enjoy, and the short version of the comic is there's an artist who sees a work of art and becomes inspired by it, and she loves it, and she falls in love with the artist, so she works extremely hard to try and emulate this artist because she's inspired. And she becomes really frustrated because she can never, like, reach this potential that she really wants to reach. But then she eventually finds out that she's not alone in her struggle of, like, wanting to be... wanting to be better, be that person that you're inspired by. And then all you have to do is kind of look behind you, and there's other people who are looking at you striving and being inspired by your work and your strive. So it's kind of that concept that being inspired causes inspiration, so to speak. So like you being inspired by something and like working hard at something and making content inspires others, and others see your work. And so this concept of would you rather is interesting because everyone sees things and would be inspired by them. So it's not so much a concept of like, would you rather be inspired by stuff? Because that's, I don't know, that's real kind of cold and harsh to put it. Or how do I describe that? In
real life, it works. It's got both. They both work together.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, it creates like this line, this chain. It's not just one link in the chain where you're at the bottom and someone else is at the top. It's a chain. So you've got a bunch of people who are, it's like steps up there, and not only that, but the chain is all messed up too. So you'll look at one thing and be like, that must be much higher than me. And then meanwhile, there's this wonderful thing that happens with artists where they look at someone else and they go, man, I really want to be like that person. And then that other person looks at them and goes, man, I really want to be that person. It's this back and forth thing. And like you said, they work together very well. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to say, to make it a would you rather.
That mm-hmm. comic is called For Everyone Who Loves to Create by Project Tiger, if you're interested in looking it up.
It's in our favorites folder too.
Yeah, we can put it in the favorites folder too.
And so you can go to our favorites to check it out. And so like to kind of answer the question personally, I would. It's hard for me to pick because I don't think I would rather like one or the other, like be inspired or be an inspiration, because being an inspiration almost sounds pompous, but everyone like always wishes that they could create something that's good enough for people to be inspired by. And as a content creator, like being on this podcast and doing things, like I love inspiring people. So I always like seek to inspire someone or to teach people things. So I'd love to be someone's inspiration, but I also love being inspired and looking at other things. So like Rainbow Plasma said, I don't think it's one or the other. It's kind of a both,
Yeah. Yeah. And mm-hmm. I now there is both. For the sake of the question, I'm going to try to split it up into hypotheticals, like if you could only have one or the other. And I think I would, it is a pretty spectacular thing that I'm finding to be able to inspire people. And we're all affected by this chain where we're sitting here and we're doing this podcast, and it's not like we don't think it's important to do the podcast, but we obviously don't have the same perspective that a lot of people who watch the show have, because we've gotten a lot of letters from people that we don't even know would talk about how inspiring it was to hear our show and how it's gotten them to start art or rekindle their love for it. People are going back to school because they listen to the podcast. And I mean, that is something that I've never experienced before creating content. And so to be able to positively affect people in such a way while doing, frankly, minimal effort in our spare time, it's a pretty spectacular feeling. So I would want to inspire other people, because from your one thing, you could gather a lot of inspirations and get it down into one product, but if you're inspiring someone, then your one little thing can spawn so many other things, and it creates this huge chain, and it really is nothing quite like, I've never experienced anything like it, and I think it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Also, good, Pinky Dashi open. I heard you breathe.
Hey.
Go.
I just wanted to say, I've been trying to think since I sort of put this question in there. I've been trying to think of an answer for it. I think I finally have one, but it's not really an answer. It's the same sort of thing. It's sort of a cop out. Like since starting to do art a while ago, well, probably over about a year and a half ago now. I've always loved art. I've always enjoyed making it, but I've never sort of seen myself as an inspiration. I've always been inspired by other people and looked up to other people who make these amazing pictures, just like that comic. And then since I've started making vectors, people come to me for help and advice, and they've been all like, "Wow, your vectors are fantastic." And I'm like, "Well, no, they're not. I just made this with shapes and stuff." But they're like, "Wow, that's really cool. I wish I could do that." And so I can't really answer this because, I mean, yeah, that's awesome. People come to me and they're inspired by what I do, which feels great. But then again, I'm aspiring to all these other people who make fantastic art, and they do it really, really easily. I don't know who, like a Trill, who make these fantastic, huge pieces really, really easily, and then I can't do that, and I really, really wish I could, but I can't answer it because there is no answer.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything that you guys are saying. But I kind of see, I feel like I enjoy inspiring people, and it's not to sound pompous or anything like that, but just inspiring people to actually create is something that I really enjoy, because I know that anyone who I inspire will end up doing greater things than I do. Through whether it's through the podcast or whether it's through my vector work or whatnot. Look at some of the people who have seen our podcast and have started creating art because of our podcast, like Assassin Monkey, for instance. It's like his art has gotten so good that I personally would not be able to draw on his level, maybe after years of training, but it's it's amazing to inspire people to do work at that level.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I would definitely go with being an inspiration, because the question sounds like it's, do you enjoy creating as well? And I'm not a big creator.
It's a little bit skewed.
Yeah, it's a
little bit
tricky
skewed.
question.
Anyways.
But it did generate some discussion, so that's good.
Yeah.
Now for a little bit of lightheartedness. Another question. You rule your own country of awesome. What does your throne look like? By Assassin Monkey.
Ooh.
I'm going to create a fun little game here, and I'm going to have everyone come up with the answer to this, but they can only use 2 words. It doesn't have to be a proper sentence.
Oh.
Wait, quick question. Can we say butts twice? Oh wait, never mind. Go ahead.
But two words, okay? You got to come up with 2 descriptive words. Don't go into a huge detailed thing. Just give us 2 words that we can that the 2 main words that you'd use to describe your throne. Okay?
This is tricky.
What about lots?
Do you want me to go first?
Lots
Do you
of
want me to go
buttons?
first?
Yes.
No. Okay, so my 2 words would be comfy and futuristic.
Okay.
That's I think those that would be my 2 things that I would want in a throne.
Yeah.
How about you guys?
If I'm ruling my own country of awesome, I want it to make it look like I'm imposing and empowering. I'm gonna say,
You could just say imposing. That's a good word.
but I want to describe my thing, so I'm gonna go I'm thinking like something clouds and electric, like storm clouds.
That could be one word, sure.
But that was my word.
Well, what about imposing storm clouds?
Imposing storm clouds.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
guess.
Perfect. I think that's great.
I guess mine would probably be warm and inviting.
Oh, okay.
Because-
Interesting. No. That's just,
I
Why can't you describe it?
I think
Okay.
because I think it's really interesting if we leave it at that. Because if you try to describe
Okay.
it, you'll suddenly start using other words to try and justify stuff.
Okay.
But when we leave it at the 2 words, then it leaves stuff not only up to interpretation, but it makes you choose those words very carefully because other people have to interpret them.
Well, I keep joking about the concept of butts, because I think it'd be really funny to have a throne made of women. But joking aside, 2 words that are descriptive that I can't describe would have to be something like intelligent and modest.
It's 2 very interesting choices of words in that particular order.
It's weird because all of our words kind of fit our personalities, which I guess is why we kind of
Except
Comes the
mine.
part where
Except for
I wouldn't.
No, actually, totally mine. I'm very imposing.
I think I wouldn't say it's quite as introspective as it's introspective in a different way. I wouldn't say it really matches up 1 for 1 with our answers, but yeah, no, that's why I wanted to have that, because I realized that we could do a little exercise like this, and I think if we limited it to the 2 words, then you really have to think about what you want to convey with that, and what is important to you. And when you don't have 50,000 words that you can say, you have to pick them very carefully. So there you go. Try that at home, folks. If you were to rule your own country of awesome, what does your throne look like? And for the challenge, only use 2 words.
So we have a DeviantArt page, which is cutieartcrusaders.deviantart.com. Links to all of us and other content. We also have a YouTube, which is youtube.com/cutieartcrusaders. Our Gmail account, which is cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com. Twitter, which is @cutieartcrusade. And we're on Facebook, so go like us on there and give us a thumb.
Yes.
Just one.
Last week we talked about the fact that you should, after he does the plugs, you should do the theme thing. But I want to interrupt you here because I did want to mention the fact that our YouTube page isn't going to be like quote unquote active. We tried that experiment over the last few months. Didn't really garner
I
the
haven't
kind
had
of
the time to
attention.
dump into it, and for that I'm sorry.
It's a matter of like time for content, and also just the level of interest wasn't tremendously there. So we'd rather put the time into this.
My
show
interest would be
than
higher
split it
if I
too
wasn't
much.
in college.
So just because of those factors, the weekly update stuff isn't going to be there anymore. So just let you guys know that if we have something extra, we'll put it on that channel, but it's not something that's going to be as consistent as we perhaps were saying it would be previously. That's all I wanted to say about it.
But there is an updated list of all our playlist of our episodes, so if you want to find them all easily, you just go there.
Right. So we will try to keep that going.
Yep.
So
Yeah, the playlist will stay up to date, and
yes.
yeah.
Fantastic.
So before we get into the theme, just wanted to remind everyone that there is a spoiler cast after this episode, going over episode 1 and I think episode 2 of season 4.
Yep.
So stay tuned if you want to watch
Episode
that.
1 and 2?
And our theme, 1 and 2.
What?
Our
Yes.
theme is going to be here in the video.
Show both episodes back
there.
to back?
What? Yes, that's how they've opened the
I thought they
season.
deleted a week or
every single
something.
season. Oh, for
No.
God's sakes, no.
It's been so long!
The theme is on the screen there, you guys. So hopefully it is not something weird at all.
It's gonna
Look
be
at
weird.
it.
I'm
Look at
editing,
it,
so
like
it's
it,
not
lick
gonna
it.
be weird.
Great.
So yeah, look forward to that next week.
We take no responsibility for
I
screen
think
licking.
next week we'll probably, I don't know. My birthday's coming up. Maybe we'll have some fun stuff for that. If I'm even there, I might not even be there. I don't even know.
We're going to make sure it's extra fun then.
Anyways, we'll worry
Next
about
week's
that
theme's
next week.
not gonna be Rainbow Plasma.
Yeah, it's not gonna be. That's fine. That's not fun.
That would be a very short episode.
Like his horn.
Yeah. I was hoping you went there.
So
Suck at RP's horn.
Really? Okay. So yeah, we'll worry about that next week though. We'll wrap this one up here and we'll think about that next week. So thank you guys for watching. Whether or not you're on the live stream or on YouTube, we love you all the same. My name is Rainbow Plasma.
My name's Bird.
I'm Letter Guy 317.
I'm a spark.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Tune in next week.
Bye.
Or don't. It's up to you.
Happy birthday, Dave.
What? It's Dave's birthday. What? No, wait.
Hi, and welcome to the first spoiler cast for Season 4, Episode 1. I'm Flutterguy317, and I'm joined by Burned
Hi.
and Rainbow Plasma.
What's up?
And we're going to discuss, I guess, Season 4, Episodes 1 and 2, which was the season opener for MLP.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Yay!
Ponies are back.
If you didn't watch
Yay.
it, don't watch this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's a good point. It's a spoiler. It's in the name. You know what? I don't.
Yeah.
It's Tuesday now. Like, watch the episode. Go.
Yeah, now. And then
Yeah.
come back,
Yeah.
and then watch
watch
us on
us.
YouTube.
Yeah, it's great.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, we're
So
not
yeah,
doing
first
opinions yet.
2 episodes. Two-parter as usual.
Can I just say, start this off with, like, prior to the episode, like, I don't think any of us were really prepared for ponies again. Like,
No.
when we were
No.
recording last week's episode was the first time I was like, wait, it's happening in like a week.
It's happening.
It was the longest drought, because it ended in like January, or early February or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's been a good like 9 months. So I think almost 10 since the episodes aired. So I mean it's definitely been a long time since we've seen Pony, and I think we've all kind of fallen out of the routine of watching actual episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to relate it to the strangeness that happened last year with the hockey lockout, with the NHL lockout, because I would watch hockey pretty religiously, and then you have the normal break, which is like summer, and then suddenly there was a lockout, and then I'm stuck in like September, October, like I don't know what to do with my hands, like there's no hockey.
What do I
And then
do
it
with
comes
my
back,
life?
And then it comes back, and you're like, oh, I've forgotten what this feels like, but we'll
It's
get used to it.
so great, so amazing.
We'll get used to it.
Yeah.
Such greatness.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was definitely like that Ron
Much
Paul
happened.
gift for me, where it's like it's happening, like rainbows.
Yeah.
Because I was actually last night I was on a Skype chat or call with you, RP, and I was like, I was just looking at the pony gifs, like the freaking Not Bob, the dude on Reddit, Not Bob. He's making those gifs of every single episode. He just finished it last night before the season finale.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
200
I was
gifs.
watching and looking through all of his gifs, and it was like so many nostalgic feels. I was like, like where have these been all my life? Like, what have I forgotten? It was magical.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about you guys, but this was the first episode I've seen since the end of season 3.
Yeah, me too.
Like we didn't watch anything in between. I didn't catch up on them for whatever reason. I don't know why. I guess I was just waiting for the new episodes. But
We
Just
did
life.
watch the finale of season 3. Right
oh
before
yeah,
this.
we watched Magical Mystery Cure before getting into the
Yeah.
first 2 episodes. But
But
yeah,
yeah, like
new ponies.
last year, if I can remember, like we did the big prep thing for like beforehand, and we like watched quite a few episodes before
Yeah.
the season started. And this year, it just like kind of crept up on us.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't know about you guys, but like after like watching this and it like just coming up, like I'm all re-hyped. Like I got hyped again for it. I'm all excited again.
I know.
Yeah.
We're
All right.
gonna go
Well, let's
vector
get
some
into
stuff.
it. We're already 4 minutes in. I want to
It's
keep
like I'm
these
a fan or
around
something.
around 20 minutes or something. So let's
Okay.
try to get into this before we run out of time.
Okay, so let's start with episode 1 then.
Yeah. So
Um,
like, what do you guys really think about episode 1? Was it like that's the first ponies we've seen in a while? Like, what was your big thing?
Well, I'm gonna start
Yeah, go ahead. You start.
right off with the introduction. Was really clever, like what they did, because we're big on on Reddit and browsing Reddit and whatnot, and someone posted an image from the new intro of Discord in the window of Fluttershy's, or Fluttershy's singing, and that was pretty clever.
Yeah.
And it was just it kind of tied everyone in together and stuff like that. And also Luna's in the introduction now too, which is awesome.
And a bunch of other. It's funny because actually, we were watching it live, and when Twilight stepped out of the balloon, we were like, well, there's no wings, so that's weird. But then immediately afterwards, the intro had wings in it. And we were talking a little bit about how it was nice to see the first thing that we saw of season 4 rather. Was Twilight learning her wings a little bit.
Yeah, that was
I know
great.
that was I know that was a lot of people's complaints, was that in the season 3 finale, suddenly she knows how to fly, and that took out a bunch of plot points. But I think we saw here that she might know how to fly, but that doesn't mean A, she's good at it, or B, that she can really control it.
Yeah, because she's learning. That was one of my major concerns too, was what are they going to do with this whole newfangled thing? But the show and the people making it have been handling it awesomely. And so that intro when she was trying to learn how to fly, and Rainbow Dash was helping her, it was great. It was funny, it was comical, it got me into it.
Yeah.
So.
I love the fact that she's not really she's okay with taking on the new responsibilities and stuff like that, but she's not into the whole being called princess and whatnot.
Yeah, she doesn't know what to feel about it. It's a new thing for her too, which is great. Which
was actually what a lot of people were thinking that they would do. So props to them for that.
Yeah. I know what they're doing. You know what they're doing for sure.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of stuff in these episodes that have to do with Twilight and her new role being a princess, because I think a lot of people came to the consensus that last season kind of ended kind of abruptly. She became a princess, and all of a sudden coronation, and oh my goodness, okay, season's over.
Yeah.
Time
and
she's
then 10 months of silence.
I just swore. You have to cut that out. I'm sorry.
But I think that they really handled, both in the first episode and the second episode, really well about not only her reaction to suddenly being this royal figure that she doesn't necessarily want to be. She can be it. She's obviously has enough leadership to take on more responsibility, but she doesn't necessarily like the whole kind of how other people are starting to treat her differently because of it.
Yeah.
And I really like the fact that they didn't only talk about how she was handling it, but also how everyone else around her was handling her change as well.
Yeah.
It's good stuff, really is.
Yeah.
Because all we can do is hope that they handle it well, the show does.
Yeah.
Episode 1's great. Loved it.
Yeah. It's interesting, the whole premise of this episode, well, these 2 episodes really, in that Twilight gets these new responsibilities and she's not really comfortable with everything that's going on, and all of a sudden bam, she gets thrown into having to be a princess, and
head honcho.
But she steps up to the plate, which is Twilight.
Yeah.
Because she's a champ.
Yeah.
Twilight, you're my hero.
I would probably say that episode 2 had a little bit more in terms of meat and potatoes of the episode. In terms of the episodes, episode 1 was a lot of setup. But episode 1 also did reintroduce a character that I know Byrne would love to talk about.
Oh yeah. They reintroduced Discord. And I thought they did it fantastically, because I kind of had a shtick with the last Discord episode. It was all reformed or whatever. Because in the beginning of the episode, he kind of acted awesome and did funny stuff, and then it was just anticlimactism. If that's a word, I made it up. Deal with it. And so because time constraints and all that good stuff. But when they reintroduced him in this episode, which I was really hoping they did, because he's a great character, and everyone's like, "Oh no, what's happening with a great character?" I mean, even I was saying that. When they sucked him in and he was the bat in his little bath or singing winter wrap up that made me giggle. That was funny. But how he acted throughout the entire episode and all of his banter with all of the characters was just really well done and really awesome, and it was really in character for him. And it was great. To kind of jump around into season 2, there was a point I wanted to make that has to do with Discord. The only part that kind of caught me off in either of the episodes is in the second episode when they were traveling through Everfree, and they were like, "Twilight, you should go back because we don't want you to get hurt, or because we're worried about you." That felt a little off-putting to me or whatever. But it was worth it because when she went back and had that dialogue with Discord, I really enjoyed that. I thought that was great. It really seemed like Discord to kind of do something a little more chaotic for like a reason unknown or whatever. And that dialogue came off really well to me. And then and she like jumped back into them and they like saved her. Like that felt a little disconjuncted, but just the dialogue and bringing back Discord and acting how he's supposed to was great. Loved it.
Yeah.
They treated it how I felt in my own little head canon thing, how it should have been treated, or like how Discord should act. It was great.
Yeah, and Discord himself too was obviously he's changed because he doesn't want to be the big ruler that he was trying to be, thousands of years ago, and also when he first came back. He obviously wants to stick around, but he knows that sticking around now, especially now, based on what happened at the end, sticking around is really at the request of the people around him, like the main six and Celestia and stuff like that. So if he's gonna do stuff, if he's gonna do stuff for them, if he's gonna be nice and not take over stuff, then he's gonna do it on his own terms.
Yeah.
He's gonna definitely make sure that when he's doing people favors, he also gets to have fun with it too. Not enough to get turned back or anything like that, but enough to stay true to himself.
Like, he definitely has to have his fun, and that's what's great about him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the entire sarcastic banter with Twilight and everyone else and stuff, and like, I mean, he means well, but he only knows how to act in chaos. So it kind of
Yeah. And even a lot of his chaotic stuff in this episode was for the greater purpose, or at least a non-harmful, non-evil way,
Yeah.
Like you were saying before, when he had that talk with Twilight, yes, he was having fun and kind of getting under her skin, but he knew that she had to go back.
Yeah.
Like, he could have just sat there and been like, all right, well, whatever, bye, see ya, or annoyed her in another way, but he got her to go back, so...
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to see if they bring Discord up again this season.
Well, they must, now that the elements are kind of hidden, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, like, he was kind of a guide to Twilight in this episode when Luna and Celestia both kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
So
he was kind of a guiding hand, which was nice.
Yeah. And it's a different type of guiding hand. It's not like Celestia where it's like, oh, here you go, like, plain straight faced, like, this is gonna help you or whatever. It's Discord. So he's like, getting under your skin while helping you at the same time.
It's like, yes, I am older, yes, I am wiser, but that doesn't mean I need to help you quite like your other older and wiser peers have.
He helps you without you knowing it, without Twilight knowing it or whatever, which is great.
Yeah. So, a big thing in these episodes was a lot of flashbacks, which was an interesting concept because it gave us a lot of insight into events that we'd previously only ever heard about. Events such as the original emergence of Nightmare Moon, 1,000 years ago, Discord taking over, and then really the discovery, or at least the start of ponies using the elements of harmony.
Yeah, the obtaining of them.
Right, exactly.
How they came to be. But now it's funny because they came to be from this tree. It's like, oh, where'd the tree come from? Ah!
Yeah.
All the fanfics.
Yeah. Well,
maybe Discord planted the tree seed long ago, like even before he planted the vine seeds.
I doubt that.
Maybe it's all part of his plan.
Maybe Celestia's mother planted the tree.
Yeah.
Fausticorn.
Yeah, see? Faust's tree.
Fanfic writers away.
So the flashback with Nightmare Moon, that was in the San Diego Comic-Con. I believe it's San Diego Comic-Con, something like that. One of the Comic-Con, that animatic that got released, that was one of the scenes in there when you first see that whole Luna transforming thing. And so I saw that beforehand because I couldn't resist looking at the animatic. That's the only thing I saw from season 4. And it really came out well, but I know it didn't particularly fool me. I always knew, even after watching the animatic, that it was in the past, but you really got fooled by that, didn't you?
Yeah. It was like there was a turning point in that where like Celestia doesn't respond to Twilight, and that's kind of where I realized that this is not happening currently.
Yeah, it's a flashback.
Yeah, the whole time, especially because they left like the cliffhanger right in between, it was just like, wait a second, this is happening again. Like, what?
Yep.
Yeah, it totally fooled me.
Yeah, it fooled me too. Because it was like, it was placed in that dramatic scene or whatever, and things were happening. I was like, oh, like, what is this? Like, I didn't know what it was, what was going on, or what this thing going, like, what the potion caused. And then, like, when she didn't, like, twice Celeste didn't respond, I was like, okay, this is some kind of, like, vision thing. But it was portrayed and played off really well.
Yeah, that's what they were supposed to fool you. I had just seen it before and had more time to really analyze. Like, if you go back and listen to Luna's first dialogue, it's very obvious that she's talking to Celestia, not to Twilight. But it's hard to catch the first time around. But I obviously got more time to kind of look at that.
Yeah, I caught it through my second time watching that scene. That it's like, it's directed at Celestia, but the first time through, like, it could be theoretically directed at Twilight.
Yeah,
like, it's the dialogue in that scene is pretty well thought out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also,
that was really
lasers. Lasers.
Well, we've seen Twilight use her lasers before, and I suppose we saw Celestia against Chrysalis.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, side note, I don't want to go into this too much, but did anyone else get reminded of Chrysalis from the Vines? I thought that it would have been Chrysalis behind it.
The color scheme was similar.
And they had the same kind of holes and stuff, and I was like, wait, when Twilight said, oh, I think I know who it is, and then they, like, passed by some vines, and I was like, no. But it turned out to be
And then it's
Discord.
Chrysalis and Flufflepuff, right? It's like,
Yeah.
That was good, though.
yeah.
So is there any other moments, because I just wanted to briefly talk about the episodes in general, so is there any more moments you guys wanted to bring up before I go into that?
I had a favorite moment.
Okay.
It was from the first episode. When I watched the episode, I had to teach a Photoshop class this morning. So I was watching, or I was helping teach the class that I help teach, because I'm like a student or a teacher helper, whatever you want to call me.
TA.
Yeah, there you go, teacher assistant. So I was helping people, and then we were kind of at a slow point. I was like, okay, I really want to do the spoiler cast. So I sneak into, like, the back of the room where no one's at the computers, and I pull up the episode on YouTube, and I'm, like, watching the episode while half paying attention to the lesson to see if anyone needs help. So I have, like, one earphone in, and I'm just trying to, like, quietly watch this season premiere of My Little Pony. Try not to make any noise or anything. And then it's going through episode 1. It's like, it's cool, and I'm enjoying it. And then she's flying back to, like, everything goes down. It's the scene when Twilight's flying back to Ponyville. Right when she dives down into the library, and she was like, oh gosh, I'm gonna crash. And she, like, blinks and teleports herself into the library and just, like, leaves Spike there, like, hanging in the middle of the air. I was like, I, like, let out this loud laugh, like, and it was really loud, and I laughed out loud in the middle of this like, class that's being taught, and I'm like, and I was like, oh crap, I made this loud noise. And then I see her, like, crash into books and stuff, and then it goes to the window, and Spike's just like, and I'm like,
That was the greatest.
I'm like snorting and trying so hard not to laugh. It was just so funny. All I could think of was friendship is witchcraft, and, like, how much they hate Spike. It's just like, oh god, it was
could
so
use that
funny.
for sure.
That
that.
part was the funniest part of the episode for me, like, hands down.
They used a lot of, like, old animation tropes, like that kind of thing, with the window, and, like,
in the beginning where she like digs into the ground when she's failing at flying,
and when she's, like, in midair and, like, stops flapping her wings, like, and then starts, like, running in the air, and
I love those
like,
touches. What is that like?
Yeah.
This is like
It's so
sort of
good.
Acme-esque kind of old school Looney
Yeah.
Tunes.
Acme?
Acme-esque.
Acme
Yeah,
or
like
Acme?
Acme,
Acme. Okay.
like the Roadrunner cartoons from, like, Looney Tunes.
Was that made by a company called Acme? Because the only Acme I know is the company in the show itself.
Yeah, it's in the show itself, but it stands for something, doesn't it?
I don't know.
But
There's
I thought
also
it was like Warner Brothers or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
it's
in Warner
made by
Brothers,
Warner
there's a
Brothers.
company called Acme, and that's what makes all the props and junk. But Acme was actually a real company that they're making fun of, I'm pretty sure. I don't know.
Well,
Google it. Doesn't matter.
It's a grocery store.
Oh my gosh,
Actually.
this is too confusing for me.
Just Google it. Doesn't matter.
Anyways. Okay, so I wanted to talk about the episodes as a whole because I've actually looked online and there's been quite a positive reaction from it, which was cool. But I was expecting, I don't know, there was a certain feel to this episode that it wasn't quite the same as a lot of the other opening episodes that we've had in the past. And I think a lot of that I want to temper people's reactions if they are feeling like that, because they've given us some pretty incredible openers in the past. The beginning of the show, obviously, you have Discord coming in, and that's an entire double-parter in Season 2. We've got the Crystal Empire in Season 3 as an opener with Cadence and Sombra and all this crazy stuff. And so, when it comes down to this season and this opener, it was a little bit... less of a spectacle. They had a lot of cool stuff in there with the flashbacks. And so what I was trying to say was that this episode may not have been the quote-unquote best episode for the present, but it gave us a lot of stuff for the past, like giving us a lot of views of past events, and it gives us so much for the future with what they're talking about with that box that came at the end. Because that sets up an entire season-long story arc that they're more committed to this season than they were last season. Last season they said they were, and honestly I don't think they really came through with what they were saying with the whole season-long story arc. But this season I feel like they recognize that, and they're going for a much more definitive, we have to find 6 things.
I feel like that story arc is going to be much more coherent,
cohesive,
coherent, whatever, and much more put together and easy, and will lead through kind of like season 1 with the Grand Galloping Gala. Like, I really hope it's really nice and laid out like that. It'll be really nice to sit and watch and enjoy that. But yeah, like you said, it was great. Everything was really cohesive, and everything kind of blended together, and there was a lot of stuff from previous seasons that came into it, but it wasn't a huge shocker. It wasn't like, Twilight has a brother, just crazy whatever thrown in your face. It brought things from previous episodes and seasons, like Discord, and then answered other questions and things. It was a great opener, and I really enjoyed it because of that fact, because it didn't throw Twilight's second brother twice removed from the Gold Kingdom or something,
I feel like previous seasons of MLP have been a lot of big openers, slice of life in the middle, and then big closers. And I feel like this season they're going for a little bit more of a almost like a movie aspect. You start out with the first big act, and it's kind of actiony, and that's how you introduce everything. And then you get down, you start slow, and then you start building up more and more and more and more, and then you get to the climax. A show that I like to talk about a little bit in that regard would be an online show I watch, Red vs. Blue, does that a lot, where they kind of get up, they get up to that climax and just builds more and more and more. And so I think they're trying to do something a little bit more like that. And I think last season they ran into a problem where they really tried to get that overarching theme going with the whole Twilight becoming an alicorn, but they realized in there that, this has to be a secret. We can't, we're not building towards something because you don't know what that something is, so we have to keep it a mystery. And so they found a little bit of difficulty matching mystery and trying to keep it cohesive throughout the entire season. And so that's why I don't think they quite followed through with what they were trying to say. But I think this season they set themselves a very nice goal. 6 keys, elements of harmony are in a tree. What happens? Go.
Yeah.
So, like I said, this is a perfect setup episode. It's just not what we're used to seeing, and it works great for the past. It works great for the future, and I think it sets up for some pretty spectacular stuff for the rest of the season.
Yeah, well said.
Well, just to kind of touch on that whole thing, I actually really like that it wasn't a spectacle thing, because Twilight at the end of last season. This big shocker. She has wings. She's a princess.
We don't need another.
Yeah. So this was kind of an episode to bring everyone down and back to earth, and introduce some new things and new aspects and stuff like that, but not to just hype everyone up over it.
I like to think it's what we needed.
Yeah. It's funny that I mentioned Red vs. Blue, because the way that Red vs. Blue seasons usually go is the second last episode is usually the biggest episode. It's the climactic thing. It's where they've got most of the action, most of the stuff is all coming together, and then everything happens, and then the final episode calms way down, and stuff might happen, but it's really just setting up for the next season. And so that's what's really cool about it, because you get this huge climactic thing, and then you get this big we've hit this point now, where can we go from here? So I almost felt like this was that episode. So we had that big, huge, oh my goodness, Twilight Alicorn, craziness, last season. And now we've got this last part, which has got a huge amount of setup with, elements of harmony are gone. What's going to happen with Discord? What happens if something else comes up that they need it with? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what's going to happen there? And you've got that mystery of the box,
Like,
which ironically is not, this isn't spoilers for Red versus Blue, but the recent season that just ended, they kind of end with a mysterious box. And then you're like, what's in the box? And this what's in the box?
What's in the box? What's in the box? Damn purple horse, what's in the box? Oh, God, that's so good. Yes!
Yeah.
Memes
who was
everywhere.
it? Someone tweeted, one of the writers tweeted, it might have been Megan McCarthy, last year, that the last episode of season 3 was actually supposed to be like the first part in a 3-parter. And these 2 episodes were supposed to kind of wrap that all up. And so it kind of did that.
No offense meant to her, but I think that was more of a damage control thing, because I think if you put those 3 episodes together, it wouldn't make any cohesive sense. But I get what she was trying to say.
It sets things up, because the end of season 3 was like, it was a big cliffhanger. A lot of things changed and stuff like that. And these 2 episodes kind of took that and kind of finished it out.
This totally could have worked as a season ender, too.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's really interesting. So maybe this is just the season end that they wanted last season, that now they're setting up to be.
I think they still wanted
opener.
to leave that cliffhanger, though, because it's still a strategy in any kind of show to leave that epic cliffhanger and things like, oh gosh, what's going to go on? Because it forces you to watch that.
Yeah.
So like we needed that setup and that closure, whatever, in this episode to set us up and lead us through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That, what is it? The whole like Twilight Princess wings, it really rattled my fedora, but this whole episode really like let me sink it back down.
Did you shave your neck beard? In
Not
frustration?
yet. It's November. Wait till December.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People, I'm so
what
sick
did-
of hearing people complain about Alucard and Twilight. I saw
Put
some
my
complaining about it.
fedora.
I saw some complaining about it today, where people were talking about the episode, and I think someone asked someone else, they were like, what do you think of the episode? And the other person says, well, I've given up on MLP because of Alucard and Twilight. Good, because evidently all they care about is money. It's like, whoa!
Well.
Alrighty then. See you later.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I have always been pretty supportive of the Alucard and Twilight thing. But yeah,
Yep.
I thought the episode was really good. I felt like it was more my pace. I like the fact that it wasn't so spectacle.
Yep.
I like the fact that it was a little more subtle with stuff.
It was really well paced.
Yeah.
I do agree with that too. The only part that threw me off pace was when they were like, "No, you should head back because we don't want to get hurt." And then she was like, "Oh no, they need me because the banter with Discord." And then she went back and like, "Oh, save you after the commercial." Like, that felt a little disconjuncted. Whatever.
It was fast. It was fast, but I don't think it. I think it still made sense.
Yeah,
because
it didn't
I feel
detract
like
from anything. That was the only part where the pace threw me off a little bit.
When
Because
I
the pace
was
was different compared to everything else in the episode.
when I was talking earlier about how her princesshood didn't just affect her, it affected other people. Obviously, her friends, it's not like they suddenly came out of character and were like, well, you gotta go back because you're important. They're having that internal conflict, you know?
Yep.
Now our friend is technically very important. How do we handle this?
Yep.
You know?
It was definitely
She's the only
needed.
alicorn here right now. Like, if she's gone, then, like they said,
Then Cadence has to rule.
I just felt like there was
Jeez.
that dialogue maybe that could have been needed. Like when she got back, she's like, "We just really worry about you," and she was like, "I know, blah," and they have that thing. But like there was enough there to where it still felt like part of the episode was good.
And again, they had the whole good message of it's not these elements that keep us together, it's us that keep us together. That kind of thing. That was really good. I like that.
Yeah. So, we're kind of running up on time here, so we're going to close out the spoiler cast. But next week, we will do another one following our regular Cutie Art Crusaders episode for Season 4, Episode 3.
I won't be there.
Yeah. Aww.
Miss me.
Oh, yeah, it's your birthday.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Send cake.
Yes. Everyone send me cake.
Yes, so much cake.
Awesome.
Yeah. So thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned next week for Episode 3.
And feel free to let us know what you think of the episode.
Yeah! And